have his mic down. Hey everyone, welcome to our virtual town hall, virtual convention booth is really what we have right now. We've been bugging everybody a lot, and we get it. So we expect that we'll have a little bit lighter attendance here. We're just gonna have fun, run through our virtual booth. We have Greg Hughes, candidate for governor, former speaker, and Commissioner Victor Iverson here in studio tonight. We're going to have some friends, just like we would a normal convention, passing through the booth tonight. Some friends of Greg who's worked with him on a few different things. He has some items in the booth that he's going to show off for the people who are on Zoom and can actually see him. For the phones, he'll just be describing them. If you're on the phones and you have any question, just press *9 to raise your hands on the phone. So *9 if you're on the phones to raise your hand. And then on the Zoom, you can just chat us if you have it over there. It's going to be pretty casual tonight. We're kind of to the point where we're just making ourselves available to anybody who has any last minute questions. So you can get some one-on-one time with Greg here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg and Victor right here. So.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our virtual convention booth. We have all this cool stuff here that I want to talk about maybe at some point, but we have issues. We're voting. We're voting for 3 days. It's a long process, and so we just want to make sure, since we didn't even try to collect signatures, we didn't even attempt to do it. We always knew that you, the delegates, you're the gatekeeper. You decide our fate. We have to. If we get to see the primary convention cycle, it's because you gave us permission. We earned your support. So thank you for joining us tonight for this town hall and our virtual convention booth. But look, we've been on all day today, so if people are tired of hearing from us, as our campaign manager said, we understand. But again, we're glad you're here. Am I a little disheveled? I just had someone look at me and say I looked a little bit sloppy here, so I'm gonna put it all together,
just like a little bit.
All right. Let my running mate talk while I pull it all together. I'm a mess, I guess.
I absolutely want to thank all of you delegates for joining us. This is a different year with this COVID-19 and everything that's going on right now, but I just want to thank you for your participation in this process as delegates, and due to the COVID-19, you're basically serving for 2 years. I absolutely believe in this process. Each of you represent your neighbors, you represent your precincts, and you represent an important part of our Republican Party in speaking out and advocating for good governance. I'm excited to join Greg Hughes as a Lieutenant Governor candidate. And I'll tell you what, the reason why I'm excited is because I believe in Greg Hughes. I believe he is the proven conservative leader, and we are the conservative ticket in this choice that you have before you. Just out of way of introduction, for those of you who may not know me, which is most of the state, according to Todd Weiler, but I've been meeting a lot of delegates, so I think I'm getting more well known.
Yes, you are.
But I'm a county commissioner from Washington County. I've lived in Washington County my whole life. I'm now in my second term down there. Absolutely love my county and love this great state. And that was another exciting thing when Greg talked to me about joining. You know, Utah has so many great challenges and opportunities before us. Yep. And what we represent in this ticket is a Utah unifying ticket. The idea that we bring different perspectives into state government, into the governor's office, to really start talking about prosperity outside of these 4 wonderful counties that we find along the Wasatch Front, and growing prosperity out across our state. It doesn't matter if you're in Richfield or Vernal or St. George or Bountiful. When a community is prospering in Utah, all of Utah is prospering. And so that's really our message, to bring good governance, leadership, get it done, attitude to solving problems. And I'll tell you what, with this COVID-19 and with our economy being shut down the way it is, boy, it was only less than a month ago. In fact, it's kind of surreal now that we think about it. Greg was in St. George with me, and we were out doing meetings, and that was the day that the governor announced this shutdown. It seems like it was 6 months ago, but it was really just barely a month ago, as our whole worlds have been kind of consumed with that. But I'm just excited and thank all of you for joining us tonight, and I look forward to kind of having this discussion. I've been a delegate off and on since I was 23.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love our process, and I'm going to miss our convention this year. But anyway, welcome to our virtual convention.
That's right. So, should we
Well,
just jump into questions?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
let's
we're
just
gonna
go.
let's jump into they've been doing this all day.
Yeah.
So this is they just got off like about a 5-hour marathon of people coming through, and we were just getting people individual questions out to them. And this is
When you said all day, I assumed the delegates have probably been
listening to a lot of
listening off
people.
and on to people all
yeah,
day as
that's
well.
true. They've been accosted by us all day too. So there's I have a question from the phones right now, and then we have Paul Ray here, who we're gonna go to after your first question. He's gonna come and drop by the old booth here, and
Nice.
and we can let those guys talk for a minute. So the first question is gonna come from the phones. It's phone number ending in 4815. So 4815. I see you got your hand raised. Press *9 to raise your hand on the phone. 4815. If you want to go ahead and ask your question to Greg and Victor, just introduce yourself, give us your name, where you're from.
I don't hear anyone. It's 4815
hang
is
on,
the
hang
last
on.
4 digits.
We got you. Miles,
that
go
makes
ahead.
sense.
I could hear you, and the phone people could hear you, but go ahead. Greg couldn't
Okay.
hear you for a sec, so if you could just repeat
Oh, you
again.
couldn't hear me? Okay,
Yep.
you got them unmuted now.
Yep.
Yes.
We
Okay,
can hear
I
you
asked the
now,
same
Miles.
question.
Thank you, sir.
There we go. Thank you. I asked the same question to about every candidate. About the only person that's ever answered it correctly was Mike Lee. And so it's kind of it's a really simple one.
Okay.
I ask everybody if, say, I don't know, foreign exchange student asked you, I understand that the founding fathers got to choose what type of government you have in the United States of America. What type of government did they choose and why? And surprisingly enough, the number of candidates that can't answer that question with any degree of clarity is pretty high.
I would say it's a
Take crack
republic.
at it?
I mean, it's
Representative
I'd
republic.
say it's a democratically elected republic, but it's a republic form of government. Did I win? Did I win? Winner chicken dinner,
Well,
or do you want me to elaborate?
And you'll answer. You'll be able to grade yourself, and it's the and why is the big part of the question. Why did they pick that form of government over all the other forms?
Well, because they were creating a system of federalism. They were bringing the 13 states that were functioning as independent states into a central government. So it was important that the states represent,
Yeah.
continue with a certain degree of autonomy, and so that's my understanding.
Man, that's our tag team answer. That was a 1-2 right there. I don't know if that won, if we won the quiz, but that's I would concur.
No.
Look, the sovereignty is not found in the federal government. It's in the states. The states are sovereign. The federal government has its limited role, or was supposed to be. It certainly has grown since then. But I think that's that's the form that we have now, and what was wisely chosen.
The interesting thing is the answer is found in the Pledge of Allegiance, or the most important part of the answer. It's the only form of government that does the one thing at the very end of it. I'm going to give it to you. And that's protect liberty and justice for all. Democracy obviously steps on all sorts of people's rights and other forms of government.
I was just
Destroyed.
thinking. I was just trying to be academic. You're exactly right. That's
Yeah.
good. You're right. You're right. And look, this is why we've talked about this in a lot of the questions. We're saying, look, show me a government that actually did what you just said. Liberty and justice for all, recognizes it, protects it. I don't know how many you're going to find outside of this great experiment. But then show me in human recorded history where government lasts in perpetuity, where it lasts forever. And that's where those constitutionally protected rights, especially your right to bear arms, the right to bear arms, I'm convinced it's the sovereignties in the people. And we do have this liberty and this justice for all. I think the right to bear arms is what helps protect the rest of those liberties that are enunciated in the, oops, I'm rubbing my hands making a noise, that are articulated in the Constitution.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Miles.
I think
Thank you, Miles.
Mike Lee still stands as the only one that answered that question. Right? You and I,
Yeah.
we didn't do it. We're
He's
sorry.
really good. He's pretty smart on stuff.
Well, Mike is an awful smart guy, and we'll
Yep.
give him credit for that. I had an
Absolutely.
opportunity to work with Mike in his.
I mean, not
His
he
election
has his
and-
limitations though in his
Yes.
choice for gubernatorial candidates, but
Yeah,
other than-
like his
Yeah.
endorsement skills seem to be a little bit, lagging lately. I don't know, I don't want to throw stones or anything, but I'm kind of wondering about that. But other than that, the guy's all right. I like him. So, anyway, Miles, any other questions for us?
Top of my head, not really. Coronavirus, any update on when they're going to get things opened, or do you honestly think it ever should have been shut down, or should we have just taken more cautious approaches, worn masks, gloves, more hand cleaning, that sort of thing, protect our elderly environment? Or would you have done the close down? Do you think it was proper? That sort of thing.
I got to tell you right now, and I know, look, and anyone who thinks that I'm just playing Monday morning quarterback or being, hindsight's 2020, you go right back to mid-March when I did some Facebook discussions about this. This state had no business closing down a single business without understanding how that would roll out, how that would work, how bills would still be paid every 30 days in people's lives, whether they are maintaining a household and they work, or whether they have a business and they're running it. You can't stop an economy and not even begin the discussion about how you would restart that economy or what the consequences of stopping it would have been. And so all of those decisions, I said it back then, I said the big, now what? They stopped it. Everything stopped. I know that's not a sustainable way for us to move forward. This entire world we live in and this country we live in depends on a free market and an economy to run. And there's not the ability for the federal government to print enough money to replace an economy. And so I asked early on in March, then what? How does this plan even sustain itself? Well, it hasn't. And my prediction is, so I don't think, if it was up to us and we're staring at this, we know that the state was handling or experiencing this in such different ways. There didn't need to be this mass closure that you saw. I keep hearing that the governor didn't close the businesses. Go talk to the business owners who've been closed for a month now, that they were never closed. But I'll tell you so I would have done it very, very differently. I know we would have, and I know that Commissioner Iverson has been dealing with this directly with Washington County. But I hate to tell, I don't know who thinks they have a public health strategy that goes any further in the state we're in right now beyond April, because I'm going to tell you, it's my belief that in May, the American people and the people of Utah are going back to work, whether the government has given its permission or the mother may I or not. I think people are going back to work. And so if they'd like to have a public health strategy, maybe we can articulate safe practices, keeping our hands washed, not touching our face, keeping distances, doing all of that. I think we need to live with some precautions we didn't live with before. But I don't even think it's up to the government at this point. I think people are going to get back to work here one way or another out of necessity. I think there's no other plan that's been explained to me where people can just quit working and the economy's just stopped.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your question, Miles.
Thank you, Miles. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
All right, so let's go ahead and before we go to our next question, let's go ahead and bring on Paul Ray. We got our drop-in legislator. Paul, let's see. Paul, are you there?
I'm here. You got me?
Hey, there he is.
Gotcha.
What's going on?
Hey, I just
Dressed up. Look at you. It looks like you've been in a session.
two today. We did the third and the fourth special sessions because somebody screwed up the economy, and now we got to fix the dang thing.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I don't know how many times I told the Speaker and the President of the Senate, I wish Hughes was in charge right now because we wouldn't be in this mess.
Thank you.
And I say that because Greg and I served together for a long time. And we actually haven't always been on the same side on issues. I can remember the best lobby job I ever pulled. I actually called his team, the Steelers, was in the Super Bowl. And I was trying to get a bill passed that he'd been blocking for 2 years. So I called his team, the trainer of his team, this was an athletic trainer licensure bill, called him the day before the Super Bowl and lobbied Greg to support my bill. Now, to Greg's credit, this guy has a lot of principle. He went against his own team and still voted against my bill.
I still support the bill, but boy, you had to humiliate me, didn't you, Representative Ray? You had to make me say no to my childhood hero team, and he's calling me. All I want to do is talk about the team and how they're getting ready for the Super Bowl. And he's really caring about your bill. I don't know how you got him to care about your bill so much, but I didn't vote for it. And then I had to be on the wrong side of my team. That was the most creative and roughest lobbying I've ever endured as a public servant was Representative Ray.
But it goes back to your principles. You stuck your ground, and that's what I've noticed the whole time that I've served with Greg. We went through some really hard battles together. I think about when he was speaker, the Other Side Academy. We had to pull a last-minute Hail Mary to make that survive. We worked on the Rio Grande. Greg called me and said, "Hey, Operation Rio Grande, we need to figure some things out. You've got expertise in this area. Please come help me." And this is a guy that, as speaker, rolled his sleeves up and was down in the middle of that the entire time, with his troops, and not looking from the hill and giving people plausible deniability if something goes wrong. He was right in the thick of it. But to me, the most important thing was when I chair Social Services Budget Committee, and we were in the middle of the Medicaid expansion battle. And I kept saying the governor was pushing hard. He really wanted this social program to go out to everybody. And I'm looking at the budget, and the free money was going to cost us about $584 billion or $1 million, $584 million to implement the free money that we were going to get. And I kept saying, we can do that, but then I'm going to have to cut services to children and people that are disabled in order to give Medicaid to everybody else. And Greg stuck his ground. He got beat up in the press. I can remember some of the cartoons they drew about you. I enjoyed them because they weren't me, they were you. So they were really funny. But Greg stuck his ground, and we were able to beat that back against immense pressure from people to give away this free money that was going to cost us a heck of a lot more than what it was actually going to help us. And so I've been in many battles like that with Greg, and I can say he sticks his ground, sticks to his principles, and he never backs down. And I certainly appreciated that, that I had the speaker that had our back on this thing and made sure that we didn't overspend our budget and we kept it balanced. So, I can't tell you how much I support Greg, and I do anything to make sure he becomes governor, because especially with what's happened now, we got some hard decisions coming down the pike. We are going to come in a very, very short budget. And I don't want somebody who's going to back down and just give away money. We're going to have to cut. We're going to have to draw the line. And I want somebody who's willing to do that with me.
Representative Ray, I love this. I want to just tell those that are on this virtual town hall and our virtual convention booth here. By the way, do you recognize the chairs, Representative Ray? It's right from the speaker's office right here.
I was wondering.
He was very judgy about these. He didn't even want to fumigate them after I've been sitting in them for 4 years. He wanted to get all new furniture. They're going to throw these away. So we kept them. So we have these speaker chairs here. But I'm going to tell you that that we were in that we had just right before we got in this town hall, we were talking about Operation Rio Grande, and we were talking about how there were booking restrictions and how you couldn't arrest those that were in the Honduran drug cartel and the Mexican drug cartel and all the drug trafficking and human trafficking that was going on, because there wasn't any space in the jails. There was this restriction, and we had set aside some money to try and open up some jail space. And I called you at a moment's notice and said, we just got to find a county that can help us, and just call the cavalry. And you did it. You did it so quickly, and you were able to work with your county sheriff and get us those jail beds within the budget we had, which looked like it wasn't going to happen. So it's been fun. It's been fun to work with Representative Ray. I also have, you kind of segued into this. Look, I'm going to show you. Representative Ray and my colleagues got me this. Okay, you see this? I didn't even know that they made like spears anymore. This is it's a spear. So when we were having our meeting, our caucus meeting, we were talking about all the criticism about Obamacare expansion, and we're all going to get attacked. And I didn't want my colleagues to get attacked. I didn't want the special interest groups targeting all their races. I told my colleagues that this was what I was made for this, and that I would be the tip of the spear. And then they went and they bought me a spear. And so I've kept this ever since. So thank you, Representative Ray.
We did put a safety tip on the end of it for you.
Yeah, they did. You did. You didn't trust me. I might put an eye out with that thing. You'll watch where it goes. But thank you for joining us. I'm telling you that these are the moments. I mean, it's public servants. It's a part-time legislature, but boy, it's been an honor to serve with you, Representative, and thank you for your support. And just all those delegates that you know and that you have that know you. you know that we're the ticket. We're the only ticket that didn't try to gather a single signature to get to work, do the workaround with delegates. We know that our fate is at the feet of delegates, and so we're looking to earn everyone's support to move on to that primary election. So pass the word.
You got it, Greg.
Hey, thanks for stopping by the virtual convention booth. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Representative, for being with us. It's fun. I'm enjoying the virtual convention booth. I hope everybody else likes it. We got some props in here for people to enjoy. We've been having a good time with it. We're missing the convention and seeing everyone face to face. So we have our next question is going to come from Catherine Smith. So Catherine Smith, I'm gonna bring your mic up here. You can go ahead and ask your question straight to Greg and Victor if you'd like.
I would love to.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
Hey, it's Kathy Smith from up in
Oh, Kathy.
Ogden. First of all, I'm hoping you can't see me on a video because I look more disheveled than you guys do.
You heard me say they're all looking at me like my suit was off or something. Hopefully
You
I'm
know,
pulled together.
oh no, Roger Brown just said he can see me.
Yes.
Okay, no
you
makeup.
Look fine.
Let's see.
You look great.
You look great.
There's my husband, Bert Smith.
We can't see it. All went dark.
Now it
That's
just
so
says your
funny.
name, so we can't see it.
Okay, well, how can I hide over here behind my phone?
Can't see
I
it
just-
anymore.
I just want to tell you that I think, and I've been a delegate since Ronald Reagan came to the Salt Lake GOP convention in 80 or 81. So that tells you how old I am. But I really think the way this virtual vetting of candidates has gone, I feel like I've had more access to candidates than ever before. So thank you for having your virtual booth there at your convention. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the reopening of the economy. I got an email today from my daughter. She and her husband own a retail business in Holiday, a frame shop, and their sales are down 95%.
Yeah.
And she said, they got an email today from the mayor of Holiday who said something about you're all going to have to be patient, don't be impatient, blah. And Megan said, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'll bet the mayor's still getting a paycheck. We're not. Our sales are down 95%. So what are we going to do? And how soon can we just go back to work? I'm with you. I think we have to do it May 1st. And then I also wanted to talk about your voting record as per Libertas Institute's voter index.
Yes, that's good too. I want to talk about that too. But
Okay,
first,
thanks, Greg.
hey, Kathy Smith, let me just, to those that may be watching, Kathy and Bert Smith, they absolute patriots. If there is a constitution in a pocket, in a suit pocket today, we can thank Bert and Kathy Smith for their contributions and how much they have done for the state of Utah and making sure that our constitution is available for everyone, and just true patriots.
Well, you're kind. It's not about me. I'm trying to hide behind Bert. He helped get out to date. The National Center for Constitutional Studies has gotten out 20 million of those.
Oh, that's
Isn't that
fantastic.
something? Isn't that
20 million since probably 2005. Pretty good, huh?
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, yeah.
There's not
I'm
even
just
20 million in suit coats around there. I just amazing things. So that's it. And purses and jackets. I don't know. So anyway, what a beautiful effort. Thank you so much. So you're patriots, and I've throughout my public service, you are easily some of the thought leaders and opinion leaders that I've respected and I've enjoyed working with. So let's talk about COVID-19. We have to get back to work right now. And I'm not comfortable with the government picking what businesses are essential or not essential. If they support a family, they're essential. I think that these broad powers of state of emergency and health department orders, I've read the statutes, looking at the times that we're in right now, and they weren't meant for the circumstances we find ourselves in as a nation in this pandemic, or a statewide open-ended pandemic that we know very little about. State of emergencies and health department orders were usually, or up until now, have been acute. They've been specific. There's a wildfire, there's a flood, there's a tornado, there's an outbreak of tuberculosis. There's something that that is that you want to contain and measure, and there's a beginning, middle, and end to the crisis that you're just that the state of emergency or the health department orders are designed to act and to be on the side of safety where the normal processes of government might not be able to accommodate. That is not the times that we are living in now, and it is not the circumstances. And so when you see these broad orders, it's not it was never designed for that. And so I've been disappointed that we saw decisions made to stop our economy without, and we can see that this is the case now, without a single thought to how it would reopen or what it meant to close. If someone's income is interrupted and their employment's interrupted, how do you pay the bills when they come due every 30 days? If you have a business and your business has bills every 30 days, how do they get paid?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know that there was a single idea of how any of that would work. And giving people a link to the Small Business Administration, the SBA, and some hyperlink to a loan that's oversubscribed within 2 days of it, supposedly becoming available for small businesses. None of it works. The government cannot print money to replace economic activity. And so with that, I believe, Kathy, that if there is going to be a public health strategy for the state of Utah, it is a get back to work strategy right now. And if we don't come up with, if the government and the state government doesn't understand or figure out how to roll that out very, very quickly and what those precautions look like, I think the American people and the people in the state of Utah are going back to work regardless. And it's not a Mother May I moment. And we get into May, no one's asking permission. We're going back to work. And I don't think that I don't think that they're going to want that. So that there needs to be a more responsible strategy than the one that we're living through right now.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
The Libertas rating. So I just had someone that called me about this. So it's an interesting scorecard. Now, I'm not a pure libertarian, I have to say. I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative, and so I wouldn't subscribe perfectly with a libertarian, just as a matter of course. But I do love Libertas. In fact, the irony about I had to leave. We were both sitting here answering questions, and I had to get up and leave because Libertas had asked for me to help. There was a bill for a special needs scholarship for special needs students that was in the Senate, and it didn't have the votes. And I was asked if I could make some quick calls and texts to some of my former colleagues in the Senate to see if we could whip the votes to get that to pass. And it passed by 1 vote. But it was funny that the question I missed was, why is Libertas not happy with Hughes? Why has he got such a low score? When the reason I was gone is that they called me and asked me for my help. And one of the bills that I got bad marks for is the school readiness bill. And I actually think it's kind of funny because I think it looks very similar to the special needs scholarship bill that they are working very hard to see passed today. And that school readiness bill was one that said if private enterprise and private dollars wanted to invest in the daycares that already exist today that may have students that are there, and those students they have what they call a Peabody picture vocabulary test. It's basically, to me, it's Sesame Street. Okay, if I'm being honest, it's, do you recognize colors and numbers and shapes and letters? And anyway, if a child that's 3 or 4 finds that they're not able to recognize those shapes, colors, letters, numbers, the chances, if there isn't any kind of curriculum or something like what I use, Sesame Street, something there by way of curriculum, they will need an individual education plan or special education when they get into our schools. So in a circumstance where you have kids that are at daycare, they called it nursery school when I went, but if they're there, if there are those that would like to use private dollars to provide curriculum to help raise that education and that curriculum on that very basic level with young children before they go into kindergarten, if those children that were assessed to have needed, if absent intervention, special education dollars, and they don't, the state would reimburse dollars back to those that were investing in those children so they could take those dollars and then put them back in towards helping those kids. And I thought it was working with the free market or working with people's private dollars, because the state can't afford to do it. You can't use state money to do it. Well, that was a bill that Libertus was opposed to then, but I think if you looked at what they're doing now, I think the scholarship for special needs bill that they're advocating now would be similar to that. And so that was a bill I got bad marks on. And then I was really jealous that Representative Dan McKay got a real high score and I got a low score. So I looked at they sent a score sheet that has like red X's for bad votes and green check marks for good scores. And we were literally one vote off in that bar sheet that I saw. But I think I got a worse score because I sponsored one of the bills they didn't like. But that's one of them. The other one was if a drug dealer sold drugs to someone and they died from those drugs, if there was fentanyl in it or something at a high dose and the person died, I voted for the bill that would treat that as a homicide. And they were opposed to that bill. And I got a bad mark for that. So you have to look at some of those bills and the context behind them. If you shoot a police service dog and you shoot them, I voted to make that a felony to shoot that police service dog. Anyway, that was a bill they opposed as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Now let me tell you. I got to make my case. I know you're such an important opinion leader. We're the only ticket that didn't even attempt to get a signature. We didn't try. We didn't ask for any signature sheets. We didn't do it. We're the only ones.
I know.
So what I'm asking is I knew from day one that you were going to be my gatekeeper, that I had to earn the support of the delegates. And so we don't make it to the primary and to have and to make our case if we can't earn your support. So I am asking for your support and would be honored to have it.
Well, you have my support, and I'm proud of you for doing that. It shows real integrity, I think, a real commitment to the caucus system. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm proud of both of you. So thank you very much.
It means the world to us. Thank you. It means a lot.
Good luck.
You earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're going to go to our next question. Let me grab Kathy's mic for her. There we go. So we're going to go to our next question. It's from Roger Brown. So Roger, if you want to unmute yourself, you can go for it. Otherwise, I can unmute you. Sometimes I mess it up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Roger, we can hear you. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm in Provo. I was curious. I saw on at least one of your flyers, one of the points mentioned that you were an original supporter amongst officials in Utah for Trump back in 2016. And
Yes,
I was just
sir.
wondering if you could tell us more about that.
Yeah, the president, then candidate Trump's campaign really resonated with me. I had become fatigued with the focus groups, what color tie they should wear, where are people going so I can lead them there. And I found his candor to be refreshing. And I really felt like he called it as he saw it. He added a dimension to presidential elections I had not seen before. And I liked his message. And so, the Super Tuesday elections happened and I had gotten to meet his son, Don Jr. He was here for a hunting expo. We were in session. He came to the Capitol. He was invited up to the state Capitol and sat on the dais with me with his daughter. And I got to meet him and they're really nice people. And he came and spoke to our Republican House caucus. And then that was in February. In March, after the Super Tuesdays elections, when Jeb Bush, had been governor of Florida, lost, Marco Rubio lost, I got a call from Don Jr. and he said, would you endorse my father? And this was in March of 16. And I said, well, I love your dad. I love his campaign. I think it's a great message, but I don't want to be a flyover state. I don't want to just be ignored as the state of Utah. But if you were coming to Utah and you wanted to fight for the votes of Utahns, I'll join you. He says, well, let me talk to the campaign and get back to you. That was Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, he said, we're going to land Friday. That was going to be in 2 days. We'll have a rally. My father, Donald Trump, will land, have the rally in Salt Lake. He'll go on to Arizona, and I'll stay for the next 3 days and campaign in Utah. And the rest is history, I guess you could say. I supported him then. I was undaunted. I've been very happy. I know personally what he's done for this country, but specifically what he's done for the state of Utah. And so I'm proud of that support. I through the witch hunts, through this farce of an impeachment that we've had to live through. Even today, I think he's the most attacked and maligned president in United States history. And I think it's a shame, because I think there's a lot of good he does. And I don't know that it's able to be appreciated to the degree that it should be, because of the attacks that he takes that are unceasing.
I think President Trump, at least from a county point of view, as a county leader, no other administration has ever engaged local and state governments the same way that President Trump has. I mean, we're in a time in this country that is not necessarily unique, but it feels unique to us, where we have, controversy and debate going on. And really what President Trump represents is, he represents our party, he's our president, but when you subtract away all of the malignment, the controversy that's going on there, you really find a president that is cutting regulation, that is helping local governments, that is really getting things done in a way that is productive and good for this country. He doesn't get credit for it, but he's also kind of like our campaign. He approaches things to solve problems. He approaches things to get it done. And so that's why I support President Trump.
I'll tell you, the man, he sticks up for the little guy and gal. It's 100% fact. There's no political capital that he as a president gains when he comes and flies into Utah and pulls back national monuments, Bears Ears and Staircase Escalante. He does that for the people, for the small rural communities that have asked for this, for his help. And so I love that about this president, that he sticks up for the little guy and gal.
Did we lose somebody?
Do we hear him? Do you have him on?
He might have just muted himself again, Roger.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for answering, you two. That's it for now.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it.
See, this is the like Kathy said, that she loves the virtual town halls and the teletown halls, because she gets to actually have a lot. The part that kills me as a social creature is I don't see anyone's face, and and if they give an eye roll, like they hate what I'm saying, at least I know. Or if they shake their head, like I kind of understand. I mean, you can really glean from someone's face, nonverbal reaction when you're speaking with them, whether what you're saying is tracking or not. And so this camera I stare at doesn't move, and it gives me no indication of what I'm saying, whether it's, if it's even being heard. I don't even know if the mics go off half the time. So anyway, Roger, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, they talk about
it sounds
communication is nonverbal, but it really is true. Roger, I cut you off. What did you say?
I was just going to say, yeah, your audio sounds good. And sorry, I don't have a webcam with me right now on the computer I'm at.
That's okay.
Thank you, Roger,
I'll tell you what,
joining us.
Look, I was saying before, I have to say, we did not even attempt to get a single signature. Some candidates were successful at getting them, some were not, but we didn't try. So I knew from day one, I was laying my fate at your feet. This ticket, we are laying our fate at your feet. And so we thank you for being on tonight, but we hope we can earn your support. We'd like to get to that primary cycle, but we only do it if you say so. So we'd like to earn your support.
Thanks for coming on, Roger. We appreciate it.
And that's what I would call awkward silence. Okay, that's what that is. That is awkward silence. I didn't get a maybe or an okay. It's just crickets. Okay, that's
well, Roger probably smiled and nodded. And we just can't see it.
It's okay, Roger. I understand, man. It's okay.
I just gave a virtual thumbs up.
Yes,
thank you, sir. Thank you.
You need to tell your host to put a video screen next to the camera so you can see the chat.
He can see the chat. It's a little far away, so sometimes you can't always see it. But
thank you, Roger. Thank you so
Roger.
much, sir.
Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
So we actually have another guest who's stopping by tonight, an old friend of yours, Greg. It's Terry Scow. So we have Terry on the phones.
How great, Terry, our patriot. Are you there,
Mr. Speaker?
How are you, Terry?
It's your world, sir. I'm just living in it.
That is not true. Utah's first.
Living the dream.
Utah's first cabinet department head of the Utah Department of Veterans Affairs, Terry Scow, the first department head and cabinet level department head for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Terry, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. And I just wanted to reach out and let you know of my deep appreciation for all that you've done as a legislator. You know, you ran the Purple Heart tuition bill, one of the first things that you came to me about, and you wanted to give Purple Heart recipients free tuition. And
Yeah.
I'll just tell you that no legislator, and I mean no legislator in this state, has done more for veterans than you have. And you certainly helped us lead the battle to build the veterans homes and ultimately to become a department. And I would certainly be remiss if I didn't call and let you know of my regard for the great work that you've done for us, and let you know how much we appreciate the great work you have done.
That means a lot, Terry, because I'm telling you, you have worked for our veterans. Whatever I've done, you know, the story behind my relationship with Terry, just so you know, I was a young legislator. My grandparents were served in World War II. My grandmother Maxine and my grandfather, they were both in the Navy. They met each other during the war. And then on the other side of my family, my Pat McGuire, Francis McGuire, he's in the Army. But I heard stories and but I did not serve in the military, but I knew that how much I loved our men and women in the military and what they'd sacrificed. And so I asked for an appointment early in maybe as a freshman, as a legislator, if I could meet Terry Scow, and he took my appointment and let me come in. And I just said, could you give me a bill every year? Could we just move the needle? And I've learned so much from him. He has introduced me to so many veterans, families of veterans that have suffered because they've had spouses or family members that were killed in action. And there's never a moment that's not a tender moment when you're talking to Terry Scow about the men and women in the military and our veterans. They are so close to his heart. I know to this day, he's retired now, but I know to this day, he's looking out for our veterans, and he's on the homeless front, whatever it is, he just never stops being an advocate for, and he's a veteran himself. He's just a hero of mine, a personal hero. Terry, I appreciate you coming and visiting us at our virtual convention booth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And as I often say, we're doing the Lord's work here, looking after veterans.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, he'd remind me all the time. And that's what we're doing. Yeah, Terry Scott, I'm telling you, he could come up with even small bills, like things that you wouldn't think of. He'd say, look, you know, veterans have these, to prove your veteran status can be hard sometimes for veterans, or to know that someone's recently come back from a battlefield and is a younger veteran, maybe from the Gulf War, from Iraq or from Afghanistan. And so he asked me, he said, putting veteran status on our driver's license, our Utah driver's license, would be a great way to help them verify their status as a veteran, but also if they were ever pulled over and the law enforcement asks to see their ID, they can learn that context about the person. So that might sound small, but I think it goes back to the things that Terry thinks about, just everything that a veteran would confront. And by the way, just so you know, veterans make the worst advocates for themselves there's ever been. If there wasn't a Terry Scow, there would be nothing, because veterans, for the same reasons they've served and sacrificed for their country, they're not coming up to the halls of government to talk about themselves or about what they would need. They're not wired that way. So it's our debt, and we're the ones that have to figure out how we can help our veterans. So, and that's Terry. Terry's always done it for others, never himself, always for others.
Greg.
Hey.
Hey, look what we got here.
All right, Brad.
Oh, and Brad's boss.
Yeah,
it's Susie. Brad's boss. Susie's here. Susan's here. Susan Horsch, who runs the show. You're here too. So good to see both of you.
We're glad to be here, Greg. Susan had a question for you, and then I just had some comments and wanted to visit a sec. So my lovely wife is here, and one of the greatest supporters you have in the state of Utah. I'm not sure how to put the camera down on her jacket that she's wearing, but it has your name.
I don't know
All
if it's
right.
yet, but Greg Hughes.
You
for Greg.
have quite the wardrobe. You
Yes.
look stunning. I mean, you didn't need that hoodie to look stunning, but that just put it all together right there.
You know, Greg, you're the best looking candidate out there. You know that, right?
Thank you. I'll take that. Thank you.
Good. The guy
I think it's
beside
fun,
you.
Huntsman. The guy's,
Sorry,
the guy's hairline drives me
Greg, you
crazy. It's
got
just
it.
perfect.
I really like the hairline. Okay, so I have a question for you. We all know that President Truman, President of the United States, was the last president that could serve more than 2 elected terms. Since then, all presidents are only allowed 2 elected terms. So President Trump, if elected again, he has to quit after 8 years. What's your take on term limits?
Look, term limits for me, I love the way, so we don't have term limits in the state of Utah for our legislature. And if the job's hard enough and you're doing the job, there's some sacrifice involved in doing that job. And there's just you don't need an artificial term limit. You are either not going to be representing your district well enough and you'll be replaced, or in the case of our state legislature, the more you know, the more you do. And the more you do, it takes you away from those other responsibilities you have in your life. And at some point, you end up retiring. There's a high turnover in the legislature. When I entered, I was there 16 years, so I was there a long time. Of those that were there that when I arrived in 2003, I think there's only 2 people in the House that are still there now, and that's been the case for a while. So everybody else is turned over and it's someone new. So I think here's the problem with term limits. Sometimes if you are just moving people through term limits, the people that start to run the show are your staff and the lobbyists, because there is no term limit on staff and there is no term limit on the lobbyists, and that they can start to run the show. But look, I think that Congress, there's something between how the state legislature does it and that natural turnover. And I wouldn't even call it in Congress seniority. I'd call it senility in Congress. I mean, they stay so long and that system's so broken that there's the equation of sacrifice isn't there or something. So Susan, I don't know if the answer for Congress is term limits, although I will be sad to see President Trump leave after 8 years. I think he'll be reelected, but something has to be done in terms of they have to do their job. They don't attend committee meetings. They're not on the floor debating bills like you'd see in our state legislature. Something has to happen there. I just don't know if the term limits by itself would be what would fix it.
Well,
but I'm open to ideas.
I definitely think senility is the right word for it.
Yes.
I do think there's something that needs to be done.
I do. I agree with you. I do. Sometimes I think, how about this? How about they don't get paid a red cent if they're not taking budgets and passing them for the governor's signature, they don't get paid. I'll tell you this. I want to meet the person who thinks I want to meet the person who doesn't get a government paycheck or a guaranteed paycheck, who tells me this economy should stay closed. Yep. I want to meet that person because I don't think I will. Anybody who has to make a living, I don't think they're going to tell me, let's, without any income, with the bills due every 30 days in business and in our households, let's just stay closed. You're not going to hear that from a single person, except for somebody that's got a guaranteed paycheck, in my opinion, from the government that's saying that. So I think empathy is a powerful teacher.
I want to say howdy to Victor. Victor, I feel like he's a good friend of, Victor.
It's good to see you, Brad. It really is. It's
great example when he was the UAC president and had tough things, and Victor did it. And I've got to commend him for that, and I appreciate that, Victor. Greg, our oil and gas out here is the bread and butter for Uinta County.
Yep.
Of course, you're aware of what's going on. I don't know the answer. Of course, it's probably on the national level, but as Governor, what's your would be your stance on oil and gas industry for the state of Utah?
We're in this difficult time, but listen, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I know the Horrocks are tough, and I know that your community is tough, and I know that Utah has a heritage and a history of tough people that born in tough and difficult times. So here's what I would say. I don't know any area when you talk about oil and gas, and let's bring coal into it as well. It has some of the lowest sulfur. It has the lowest pollutants. In a world where we are looking for clean fuel, our yellow wax, our black wax, our natural gas reserves, our low sulfur, high BTU coal. If we can lower the barriers to markets around the world, we've got better than Australia, better than Indonesia, better than anyone. If we can get that rail line to the Gulf and we can use yellow and black wax as a blending stock to lower the emissions and the pollutants of the fuel, you've got all these lower emissions requirements of oceanic vessels and ships that's coming. That's going to be, I think it kicks in 2021. There is no better way to lower that and to meet those regulations that are required than our crude here in the state of Utah. So instead of it being worth less than the Texas, the WTC index, WTI index, it should be worth a lot more than that index, because it's what's going to create that cleaner fuel. And why is it so cheap and under market? It's because we don't have an ability to get it to other markets in the Asian Rim or to get it to the Gulf. And so we've been talking this entire campaign about the natural resources, the things that we have by way of economies in rural Utah outside the Wasatch Front, where there's been barriers to the markets. We believe that there's an infrastructure investment that has to happen with roads and rail and water. We believe that the inland port system, a system of inland U.S. custom bonded ports that can be throughout there's rail infrastructure. There's all these, we just have to create the spurs and put them together, put that system together. The existing economies of what we have will grow, and it'll also be an ecosystem for even a greater economic opportunity. And so I see no way for this state. I keep hearing that the state doubles in size by 2050 or whatever year they say. Not in 4 counties out of 29, yep, which is how this state has grown so far. It's not going to happen that way. It has to be economic opportunity and growth throughout this state. And you represent a county that is just, it's there. It's put a bow on it. All that economic growth can happen if we get the investment of infrastructure and help you get to market.
I'm not sure that a lot of our voters around the state along the Wasatch Front appreciate the blessing that we have with our energy in Utah, with the basin, with the way that our power grid comes and kind of comes across there, and we can produce cheap power. We talk a lot about the need for tech in our state. Well, tech needs energy, and it needs energy that's affordable, and we need to continue to recognize the basin and do everything we can as a state to support it. Because you take things like school trust lands, most of their revenue is coming out of the basin. A lot of their revenue is directly tied to production that's, yep, on school trust lands. So it has everything to do with our children. And so absolutely, we need the idea that, I don't want to diminish anybody's idea on energy, but the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow, and you can't run an economy on just renewables. You have to run it on power. And so
just comments, Greg. I appreciate the effort that you have stuck into Uintah County.
Thank you.
Prior to this governor's race, I got introduced to you by Representative Chu and the things you stood for on the Hill out there that supported us as a rural county. I've got a little confession though. Greg come out to our town hall here and did a town hall meetings, and I invited him to the Uintah Cattlemen's Association meeting, and he really, I would say, he really looked
uncomfortable.
He really looked out of place. Had his blue suits on. He really looked. He was the only shining object in the room, but. Greg was able to interact with the cattlemen, the Farm Bureau members, the livestock producers. When he got through that night, there was a little over 200 people there. And I can tell you almost without any doubt that they unitedly supported Greg Hughes. He has a way to talk to the livestock people, the ag industry, and I probably I'm not going to apologize because I was setting you up. I wanted to see.
I was just gonna say I got hazed at that dinner, so you know. I got hazed. They gave me I won an auction of something I didn't know existed, and I could have gone my whole life without knowing what they do to those bulls. You don't love. I'll just put it this way: you don't love those bulls for their minds. I'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Well, I wasn't going to get too much depth, but that night I really truly got. I was 100% supporter before that, but the ag industry out here in Uena County realized that you can relate to them, you can be a part of their community, you fit right in, except your blue suit.
Except the blue suit, I know. But you know what? They keep it real, and you know what? They're not judgmental. You know, they actually we had a great time. We did. We had a blast. It was a great night. I had my cousin from Pittsburgh I brought with me too, and he loaded up all the gear. He wanted the cattleman's hats, and he wanted to stay. He didn't even want to go home to Pittsburgh.
Well, it was great, and thank you for the effort that you've stuck in for Uena County previous to this, and of course on your campaign trail. It means a lot to us out here, and as Uena County Commissioner here in Vernal. You're fully endorsed by all three of our county commissioners, the mayor of Naples, the mayor of Vernal. Greg, you've earned their support. You've earned the right for them to support you. And I just want to say thank you, Victor. It's funny how much you miss people and you see them and need to, it's nice to get to see you, Victor, and appreciate the service that you've done,
Thank you, Brad. I totally enjoy your friendship, and we missed our management conference this year because of COVID, and so missed an opportunity to get together with my commissioners. One thing about county commissioners in Utah, it really becomes a family.
Yeah, it's
a group of people that you just absolutely love, and county government is something special, I think. But Brad, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Well, I will say to the Horrocks, both Brad and Susan, I've so enjoyed our friendship, and I love that you gave me a chance. I mean, as a public servant, you work with so many different people, but I feel like as you invited me to your community, and I get to meet the wonderful people that there, other than being hazed, and winning auctions I never wanted to win. I have absolutely loved it. And I have to tell you, Susan, I got a message today that you needed me to hightail it, get on that phone and call somebody. And I want you to know that I called that delegate, and I think I'm good. I think I was able to work it out. But I appreciate you're always looking out for me. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate both of you are. But when Susan says, hey, you tell Hughes, get going and make that call, I got going. So, so.
Appreciate you, Greg. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate you too. Thank you.
So Greg, I have a question.
Yes.
One of the first things that I got from you, when all this first started, it says that you cut $400 million in taxes and removed the tax on food. I'm not understanding this. Remove the tax on food.
The state.
Because I know
the state tax. So there's other taxes that are on food, but on unprepared food, the portion of the tax on food that was the state tax, we removed that state tax in 2007, I believe.
Because I'm looking at one of my receipts and it says there's a 7.25% tax on part of my food and 3% tax on another part of my food. And I'm not understanding that.
So it's a great question. So the portion that you would see that's less is the portion that used to, so the tax, so you have other taxes, there's other taxes on food from different jurisdictions. Sales tax has different, there's different entities, your state, your county, your city that collect sales tax. And so the state portion on your food tax is the part that you would see that's a smaller percentage, but you do pay a tax on food on even on unprepared food that's not the state portion, but the state's portion of your food tax we have removed. And then that bill that was over, so there was a bill that would restore that tax on food, and it had a gas tax increase as well. And then there was the referendum occurred, and there were enough signatures were gathered that would bring that issue to the ballot in November. But you needed 116,000 votes in 40 days. You got 142,000 votes in 40 days, and they stopped counting. And instead of the legislature waiting for that to be decided in a November ballot, they went and just rescinded the whole bill. And so they were looking to restore the state portion of your tax on food and put it back. But that bill was repealed in the first week of the general session in January.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate all you do, and you're my number one.
Oh,
thank you.
What was your name? Thank you so much. What was your name,
My
ma'am?
name is Luana.
Who is
it's
it?
Luana.
Luana, thank you so much. I know that you probably feel like you're getting bombarded so much with calls or texts. Every candidate's probably asking for your time or attention, but if we don't earn your support, we don't get to the primary. So we can't tell you how appreciative we are for your support. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I have put probably 40 hours a week or more for the last 2 or 3 weeks just trying to figure all this out, because there are so many good people.
There is.
And sometimes I wish that some of the good people could grab another of the good people and they could run together. And, we have a lot of good people running. And so it makes it very difficult to make a decision.
It makes it stressful for me too. So I mean, because I don't have any way other than my fate is in your hands. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Luana.
Appreciate you.
Okay, so we're gonna have another question next up in my list. We have another person from the phones who's been very patient. Phone number ending in 3814. 3814. I'm going to unmute you right now. Thank you for waiting so long for us to take your question. If you just want to give us your name, and you can go ahead and ask your question to Greg.
Hi, Greg. This is Jamie Renda from Ogden, Utah.
Hi, Jamie.
And I wasn't sure if I was unmuted yet or not, but I have a couple different things. One, I have a senior in high school that they're looking at doing a virtual graduation, which I'm opposed to. I'm not for sure why we couldn't do a graduation out on the football field and maybe not invite family members, but at least for these high school seniors. What are your thoughts on that? But I have another one after this. So.
Yeah, I have a senior too. Last Friday, we had a town hall specifically on COVID-19, and I had Dr. Mike Kennedy. He ran for the U.S. Senate against Mitt Romney 2 years ago.
Supporter.
Yeah, so he's a dear friend of mine, and I'm grateful to have his support and endorsement. He's like what's that guy? Is it Anthony Fauci, the Trump's guy? Well, my Anthony Fauci is Dr. Mike Kennedy. He's the one that's been consulting me on this whole pandemic and giving us the truth, because he loves liberty, and he understands as a physician he's not ready to give up our liberties over our public safety or public health. And in that discussion we had last Friday, to your exact point, he said there's no reason why we couldn't have seniors, because really the people that are most threatened or impacted by COVID-19 are older people and those that are medically frail. Young people, there are safety precautions that could happen. And he felt that last month of the senior experience the school could be open for our seniors. And certainly, as you've just described, he had no problem. Again, he's a physician with a graduation ceremony that was outdoors, and he even suggested just limiting attendance to the parents to be able to come, and that would be, he believes that is within the safe parameters of this virus as we have it now. So I would support that. I think I know that it's hitting the Hughes home with my son graduating this year, that he's not experiencing any of those senior experiences of graduations and proms and senior trips and all that, those other things that our young people do. And it is
Just a week of yearbook signing, a
Yeah.
prom, a dance, cotillion, and graduation. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
My mother, and this is kind of a statement, is in a assisted living, but basically she's a prisoner in there because she can't leave her room, and we can't go in there. So again, this 2 week of flattening the curve, I think we're all supportive of that, but it's gone on way too long. I'm a business owner here in Ogden and have a restaurant. By the way, you haven't came on our Trump tater yet. But,
oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I've been
yeah.
wanting to be on your Trump tater. I aspire to be on your Trump tater. If you will support me, and if I haven't ruined it by not earning your support by not being on, we get on this if we earn your support and we get in this primary cycle, on my life, I swear I'm coming on. And if this campaign staff of mine can't help me, I'm just driving to Ogden and cold calling you, and you just tell me where to come.
That sounds good. Well, we're Brixton's in downtown Ogden at the junction, and I don't know if you saw, but we're on Fox 13 the other night and also on the Standard Examiner. We put a big 24-foot banner out saying we love and support our president. And needless to say, I've gotten quite a bit of hate over it.
So you're on the right side. We'll come patronize your business. Look, I will tell you this. I think if the government does not come up with a public health strategy that shows how we are all getting back to work ASAP with smart precautions that we can take, keeping our hands clean, keeping distance, doing some smart things. I think the American people and the people in Utah are going to work anyway. I think that it will. I don't think this Mother May I, as our, the bills come due, as I've said, every 30 days. What are we supposed to do? And I say that as a small business owner myself, and someone who supports a home and kids and a wife and kids. And so I think we got to get back to work.
But it's much more than economics. I mean, my mother's nurse called me and said that she visited her and that she's very depressed and they were going to put her on some more medication. I thought, wow, are we just going to be drugging up every old person in our retirement homes and assisted living? But depression issues are setting across. I see it in my high school senior. I see it in his friends. There's big issues outside of just opening the economy. Mm-hmm. And by opening the economy, I mean that's going to solve a lot of those. But I don't know. There's a whole lot of trade-offs that we're making here, and safety and civil liberties is a big one. So I'm a big supporter of Mike Kennedy, and I totally agree with him that we still haven't recovered our civil liberties and our freedoms that we gave up from 9/11, and yet we're giving up so much more right now.
It is, and I'll tell you, there's public safety, health risks with the the situation we find ourselves in right now. We were on earlier today, and a physician told us just a story that just tore my heart. Had a patient, she was older, and more than his help as a doctor, she just wanted a hug. She just wanted human contact. She just wanted, she'd been alone and been stuck in a room and was finally able to see her doctor. And before she even wanted any medical care, she just wanted a hug. And it breaks my heart to think about the consequences that are happening right now with this the quarantine that like you said, 2 weeks to make sure you don't have it and that you're not spreading it without knowing it, to see if you have the symptoms. Okay, we're far beyond that now, and it's at a very high price.
It's kind of crazy. 6 weeks into it, that's enough. We've got our medical systems up in gear. We have the ventilators, we have the face masks, we have the other things and we flatten the curve some. And so it's definitely, it wasn't ever intended to be until the virus is gone.
No, that's so true. When we talk about that crazy, curve, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, when we talked about flattening the curve, if you look back at the original discussion, it wasn't that we were saying we're going to eliminate the cases of COVID-19. What the flattening of that curve was that we knew we were going to have X amount of cases. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is lower the spike in terms of how many of those cases were contracted at the same time. So it was never a goal that we would go to 0 cases or that there would not be any. It was, how do you absorb it as it does? If there's 40,000 people that were predicted or estimated to get it, it was never that flattening the curve meant you would get less cases. it was meant that they would spread out over a longer period of time where you wouldn't have it all coming all at once and being a spike. But this number of cases it was never argued was going to go down. It was just how fast would you get those 40,000 cases? And so we've lost sight of that. I think that all of a sudden we're now thinking that we somehow have to eliminate the virus entirely, which will not happen. And if you listen to Dr. Mike Kennedy, it's a little bit Debbie Downer. I was a little depressed. He's not as optimistic that we have some vaccine coming any minute. He thinks that it could be a long time, and that how we take precautions and how we keep, with hygiene and how we wash our hands, we're going to need to do that for a while. And I think that the data is going to bear out. This isn't as draconian or as fatal as once thought. I think the data's anyway. I think we've paid a price. I think you can't burn down the village to save the village. And now it's time to get back to work.
In fact, I'm going to give kudos to David Crandall. I don't know who he is because I haven't met him, but he sure is a big cheerleader for you.
Oh my gosh, he is. I have to tell you, I don't know him well, but man, he is a warrior. If I have a campaign award for the warrior, he's been great. I agree with you. He is a great kid. I love that guy. I met him. He came to the town hall. He's a great young man.
We have some competition. I have narrowed it down to 2, but I will be putting you on number 1 spot tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
In the primary, it's Huntsman Hughes. And, I have to be honest, I went into this not thinking Huntsman would interest me at all, but has been something there. So I have not, for the primary, I have not made a decision, but for tomorrow, I will do my part on getting you on the ballot.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you so much.
appreciate that.
Appreciate you.
And I'll tell you, I know John Huntsman was governor when I was a House member, and I've known John Huntsman and his family for a long time. And I just tease him. I say, every time you wear those aviator glasses, you just get more votes because it's unfair. I tease him about it. So anyway, no.
All right, thanks.
Well, he's and I didn't support him when he ran for governor the first time, so I was kind of surprised at the first 3. And unfortunately, you weren't at the Lincoln Day dinner in Weber or Davis, or I didn't see you there or hear you speak.
I was at the Weber lunch, but I did miss the Davis one.
You were getting that award. That
if you're on Zoom, you can see I got this Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Award that night of the Lincoln Day dinner right there. I don't know if you're on Zoom and can see it, but it's.
I'm not. I'm just on my phone.
It's in my. This is my virtual convention booth, so I have it. I have it on display.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. We appreciate you stopping by.
Should definitely get some type of an award from your campaign.
Yes, I agree. Jamie, your support means the world to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have another. Let's see. We have another question we got to get to. We have Heidi Baldery, who asked me to.
Heidi, I'm so glad she's on.
Yeah. Well, so she asked me to read her question for her. But Heidi, you're welcome to jump on. Greg seemed really excited.
Yeah, because we got something in common. But anyway, let's.
All right. Her question is, what are your thoughts on affordable housing? Specifically, if you were governor in 2019, would you have signed or vetoed Representative Potter and Senator Andregg's affordable housing bill SB 34?
So I hate copping out on answers. Or questions. I don't know that bill entirely well. I want to say it was an incentive bill on how you create affordable housing, or if you get state participation in roads, there's some smart planning that you do, but I don't.
If I remember the bill a little bit, and of course, bills change so fast up there, but I know that it was also encouraging.
She says it was.
It was encouraging cities and municipalities to not zone out affordable housing. In other words, to take it into zoning in a way that encouraged it or at least allowed it. So.
Yeah. So here's what I'd say. I'd probably support that under that description. But here's the problem we're running into, and this problem's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder if we just keep doing what we've done. Yeah. Look, we got 29 counties in this state, and as quickly as I can say it without boring everyone, the state has grown in 4 counties. It's a bowl. It's 130 miles. It's the Wasatch Front. And that is where you've seen the lion's share of water infrastructure, road infrastructure, rail infrastructure, population growth, and job creation and growth. If anyone's saying that the state of Utah is going to grow and double in its population by 2050, it cannot be in the trajectory and in the way it has grown in hyper-focused fashion in 4 counties only. That's why you have bills like the one you saw that came out with Representative Potter and Senator Andrade. Why you see that Commissioner Iverson from Washington County is my running mate, also had been the lands director for Senator Lee. We know that this state's future and its economic prosperity and all that we're going to see, the entire state of Utah has to grow. It has to have infrastructure investment. It has to have population growth. Kids that are growing up cannot leave every square inch of this state and migrate into the 4 counties looking for their job and their future. There has to be economic opportunities where young people are growing up and staying, and there has to be a relief valve for a 4 county valley, 130-mile strip where congestion failure is getting worse. There's a scarcity of housing like that, where you have more supply or more demand than supply. What happens on supply and demand? You know, more demand than there's supply, the prices go up. So if we see that economic prosperity happen throughout the state, and we can do this quickly, by the way, there's a lot of solutions on how to do this. Inland Port's one of them, one of the big ones. But we could do this quickly. The cost of living is less. The quality of life is high. The interest of local elected officials and population to see finally economic growth and investment in their communities. The interest of those that live along the Wasatch Front align perfectly with those that live with or in the rest of the state. And that is why, if we don't want to see bills that we feel might be draconian, or we don't want an interruption of our quality of life, or we are worried about the ability to find affordable housing, the long-term play is not to keep repeating the same issues where we just keep getting more dense in 4 counties in a valley, because you can't sprawl like Dallas Fort Worth. It's that you've got to have that full state investment play, and you do it politically, like I said, because it's in everyone's best interest now to do it that way.
In my county, in Washington County, is medium price of a home moves north of 340. You know, we've stopped talking about affordable housing. We've started talking about attainable housing, because really, as the cost of a home goes up, you're really pricing out your teachers, you're pricing out your public servants, you know, your law enforcement, public safety. And so it is a complex issue. It has to do with land prices, it has to do with impact fees, it has to do with zoning, and it has to do with that supply and demand. But I think as a governor, you know, we would be working very hard to find solutions to this complex problem. It is going to take effort.
Yep.
And but it is very much a part of what prosperity and living in Utah means.
I just think that I think it is very valid, and I think that you've seen it. I think the density issues and the population and the growth issues along the Wasatch Front, the people have had it. I think that you've seen it in city council races and races for mayor. There is a real stress that is being felt as we are seeing this valley fill up the way it is, and the irony of it is just too stark when you get outside the 4 counties and you realize there isn't any economic opportunity. Just go to Tooele County. 80% of the workforce that get up every day in Tooele County and go to work, 80% of that population drives between the Oakers and the Great Salt Lake to get into Salt Lake County to find work and find their job. You got to have some economic opportunity in Tooele County so that's not the case. And so I think that's the play, Heidi, on the housing, affordable housing. Ultimately, I don't think I think that's the way forward. Now, before you leave, though, Australia Brisbane mission. I think you got a young man now. Mandarin speaking. There was no Mandarin speaking mission when I was in the ABM. The ABM. I hate to tell you, Commissioner Iverson, the ABM, the Australia Brisbane mission, is the greatest mission in all the world. Now, my son just got his call. New York City, New York seems to be seems like Spanish speaking seems like it'll be a challenging place. I'm proud of my boy, but Australia Brisbane mission, what an incredibly beautiful part of the world and a great place to be a missionary. So I had to give that shout out because I saw that on Facebook.
Oh, I forgot that we don't have. I read her question for her. I must be getting old. I forgot that we didn't have her on, so I was waiting for her to respond about the mission. So She says, great mission for sure. Thanks for your reply.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So we're going to go real quick. We're going to go to one question from Shay McDonald, and then Dave Butterfield's here. So you stop by the booth. So
nice.
Let's go to Shay first real quick. He's had his hand up for some time now. So we're going to.
Shay, my daughter Sophie's been telling me that it has been ASAP. You and I have to talk. So thank you for joining us, sir.
Oh, no problem. Can you hear me well?
I can.
Great. Yeah, so far, everything you've said, I've really loved all the stuff that both you gentlemen have been talking about. The question I have is, has to do with, I guess I'd call it the culture in Utah. My family's been here since the beginning, so I don't know if I see it, because I'm kind of in the trees. I don't know if I recognize the culture as much as maybe some of the transplants, and I've really appreciated all these people moving into Utah, and it's made my business more successful. And so the question I had for you was had to do with the culture in Utah, and as people move here, you might have personal experience with this. Making sure that the culture of Utah kind of builds the people that move here rather than the culture of elsewhere changing the culture here.
Yeah, I love the question. So I'm going to speak from personal experience. So I tell people in my campaign that I'm the pioneer in my family. I came over in 1991 in a Suzuki Samurai, not a handcart, but I'm the pioneer in my family. I came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I can absolutely assure you that that Utah has shaped me. This pioneering state, its grit, a beehive state, a state of industry. And I came from a working blue collar neighborhoods growing up, but this state. Now look, I'm not. There is part of me that thought that brutal honesty was a virtue, and when you get to Utah, the brutal part is not a virtue, and it's taken me a long time to understand that the brutal part of brutal honesty is not a virtue, and I'm learning it. I'm good, but I do believe that it is shaped. I always thought I was going to come to Utah to go to school, and then I was going to go back home, and I came to a state. I met my wife. She grew up in American Fork, and the economic opportunity and just the culture and everything about it, I fell in love with it. I would never leave. Now that's my personal experience, but I will tell you that my running mate, Commissioner Iverson, he's in Washington County, and he has a lot of transplants, but I will tell you, Washington County is a very conservative county. It's the largest small county in the state by far at 200,000 residents. And I've asked him the question you just asked, okay? I've said, how have you stayed so conservative as you've seen so many people from outside of Washington County or even outside the state arrive in Washington County? And your answers have been fascinating. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Iverson to tell you how we keep what you're talking about, that keep Utah, Utah.
Well, I've grown up in Washington County. It's my home, and I've seen it grow tremendously, actually. And as I get out and campaign, we talk a lot about growth in Washington County and about what that means. And really, I make a comment. I say, we're going to grow, but we need to make sure we grow without losing our soul. And what I mean by that is we need to keep our values. And so politically, what I would say in Washington County, we've been blessed with a lot of great people, like you say, that move into our state. And in Washington County, we've been blessed with what I call a lot of political refugees. There are people who move here from places like California and whatnot. And they move here because they appreciate what we have. But it is important for those of us who have been given public trust and leadership, been elected, to be conservative and to really stand for individual freedom, limit our government, and at the same time allow our citizens to be involved. And we've been very fortunate that with that, some people will come in and they'll want to change. In my particular county, we have in St. George, there's a bar called the One and Only, and it's appropriately named because there's not very many bars. And for quite a few years, it's been the One and Only, right? But we're very close to Mesquite, and people have an opportunity to go drink there, I guess, if they would like. But I think it is critical that as Utah grow, that we do stick to our conservative, individual freedom, limited government, but yet effective government, so that people that move here don't feel disenfranchised, they don't feel left out, and they can appreciate the conservative values that have really made Utah what it is. And I think it is
Yeah.
going to be critical.
And Shay, let me tell you this what I was just talking about before with the question before that Heidi had. I also believe that if the state grows by way of population throughout the state, so we don't just urbanize in 4 counties alone, if we don't just find just pockets where you're seeing intense growth, because I think when you get that kind of density, at least that's what you see, I think, around the country, that's where this liberalism and this kind of forgetting how, they drink milk, they forget there's a dairy farm anywhere. I don't know what it is. But I think that the play for this state and its economic prosperity, including the whole state, which has not happened up until now, I think that is a way you also preserve the culture, the heritage, the grit of what Utah is. So I think it's how you grow as well and what those economic opportunities provide. Look, I'm a big fan, and I've always been a big fan of manufacturing and of I kept hearing during the Obama years that, you know what, we're not a manufacturing, country anymore. We're not agriculture. There's just certain jobs Americans won't do. I find that comment to be so arrogant that there's jobs Americans won't do. I think that what we have found with this pandemic is that it isn't a good scenario that all of our drugs are being made necessarily in China or overseas, or that manufacturing is happening all over the world, and that we need that to come into. I think this state will come out of this pandemic understanding we have to be independent. We have to be self-sustaining. I want to see our economic sectors grow and thrive. You think of anything in manufacturing and the suppliers that have to come around it. It's an incubator. It's an ecosystem for the economy. So I'm bullish about Utah's economy. I'm bullish about I think those sectors that I think dovetail well into what Utah's culture is. And we see that across the street. We'll keep Utah, as Commissioner Iverson says, we'll grow, but we won't lose our soul doing it.
Thank you. That's excellent. Really appreciate your comments. I really, and I also like the fact that you're not going for signatures. I remember Jonathan Johnson when he was running. I was getting ready for him to be on the list, and something happened, and so I've been a little sore about that ever since. And so I really like your attitude and doing it the right way.
Thank you, sir. Shay, so I am the only candidate that didn't at least try. Now, some were successful getting their signatures, some were not. But you're looking at the ticket that we weren't going that way. We knew you're going to be the boss, you're going to be the gatekeeper. And so we don't get into that primary election cycle without your support. So we want to earn your support. And we would.
Well, I think you've got it. You're at the top of the list. So that's excellent. And I really appreciate you taking time to meet with us all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us.
All right. See you later.
See ya.
All right. So we have our next visitor for our booth. We have Representative Butterfield. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
I am great. I'm great. I've been trying to stop into your booth there every night for 10 minutes or 15 minutes while I eat dinner, and we're making a few calls for you up here in Cache County. So
thank you.
I think Cache County is going to show well for you. I just wanted to say to any of those in the booth tonight that might be kind of, wondering between you and somebody else. I loved your last flyer, the fighter. You and I share a boxing background, and I love that. But I just hope the delegates know that really is Greg Hughes. Greg and I, when we were in the legislature together, I got to observe him, watch him, work with him, and that's just who Greg is. He just fights for the things he believes in, and he's not. There's a lot of politicians who will run to the front of the parade and pretend to be the parade's leader, and that's just never been who Greg Hughes is. So I hope if there's anybody out there kind of wondering, that you know, that idea of the fighter. Boy, that's who you have in Greg Hughes. But Greg, up here in Cache County, as you know, we sometimes feel like we're forgotten when the state talks about economic development and some of the great things happening in the state. Those are all wonderful things. We all benefit from those things. But those of us that are not right there in Salt Lake City or right on the Wasatch Front, we sometimes feel like you know, we're forgotten about. That's what part of what I love about your pick with Victor as the lieutenant governor is that it shows you realize there's more to the state than just, you know, the Wasatch Front. You started talking a while ago, and maybe it was just you and I, or maybe it was one of your town halls, talking about economic development in rural Utah. And actually, just a few questions ago, you were alluding to that. Maybe if you could just talk a little bit more. I'm really hoping that as governor, we have you as our fighter in there, fighting for good, smart economic development in places like Cache County and so on and so forth.
Thank you, David. It was an honor to serve with you. We have a lot. We're brother from another mother, and I love that you stopped by the virtual booth, because having my dear friends and colleagues that stop by, I love seeing them again. And you know, it is a unique experience in public service when you work with people. People send from all over the state someone to represent them, and then you meet each other, and you have that common goal, and you want to do right. You want to leave the state better than you found it, and it was an honor to serve with Dave, and I made a lifelong friend with Dave, having that chance to serve together with him. And he's a fighter. I'm telling you, like, he was actually a good one. Me, I was never any good at it. I couldn't even spar without my nose bleeding like a faucet. This kid, he kept the Butterfields, not just him, but his family. They are fighters, and they got trained by the Fulmer brothers, which are all world champions and good fighters. So I wasn't good at it. Dave was actually a good fighter. Anyway, here's the play. Agriculture. We already export an incredible amount of hay and alfalfa. We have an economic sector that is our agriculture in the state of Utah. Here's the challenge: how do you get it to market? How do you see that those economic opportunities grow? It's always a supply and demand deal. I am absolutely convinced, and we've been talking about this as a ticket. If we can lower the barriers that allow us to get what we already create and what we already have by way of economy to markets, and I'm not just talking across this United States, you know, if we're going to make sure that we're self-sustaining, I love being self-sustaining plus exporting everything under the sun to everybody who needs it. Okay, we can be that source for food and for everything else. Well, this system of infrastructure investment, water, roads, rail, and then the inland port, the system of inland ports that can be found throughout the state, not one location. I sit on my couch as a recovering legislator watching all the narratives and the paid protesters making drama in Salt Lake City. It's not one location. It's a system that you can find across the state. And that is a system that would complement Cache County very well. That is a system where the agriculture and the things they produce and the things they need to get to market could get to market, because you could have U.S. custom bonded ports so close by, your transportation costs are lowered. You're able to get that final stamp to final delivery. Anyway, that's, David, you know, and we've talked about it, that this ticket, every time I hear that the state's population is going to double by whatever year they decide that's going to be, 2050 or whatever year, it's not growing in 4 counties out of 29. That's not, it can't work. It's unsustainable that way. And when you look at our state right now, 80% or more of the state is found in those 4 counties. And the political reality is the interests align now. The people that live in the Wasatch Front are Cache County's greatest fans. They want there to be more economic opportunity. They want there to be places, beautiful places that their kids can live, instead of saying, Mom and Dad, it costs too much. I can't afford to live here. I can't find a job. We want them to know the places around this state where they could find a job or have a life. And that's what this ticket represents. And and that's why I'm grateful, Dave, that you've joined us, because I know in Cache County, they're hot on our minds.
It is interesting. Cache County is so different from Washington County, but yet I feel like we're kind of kindred spirits because we're growing. They're going to be a county of the second class now. They're just right behind Washington County in population. But I think it's important that the governor's office have a perspective of the entire state. And a lot of times it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that with the current administration too much, that they really appreciate that Utah is a very large state, that there's communities spread across. There's 29 counties, not just 4. And let me tell you something. I love the Wasatch Front. I think it's a beautiful area, very urbanized, and I love all of our state. But I think that people need to appreciate that perspective, knowing, coming from a part of the state that's not the Wasatch Front is important. And it's also one of the great blessings I had, to be honest with you, was when I worked for Senator Mike Lee doing lands and natural resources. And my responsibility was to get out and just drive around this state. And in that job, I basically interacted with every community and county here. And it just gave me appreciation for the diversity of this state, for the blessings that this state has. But it's absolutely necessary we spread the prosperity infrastructure across.
And and Logan, you've got traffic problems. I mean, you're another county that I would say has grown in spite of all the odds against you. So you've got a governor's office of economic development. Their idea of economic development is, for corporate expansion and relocation, is just number of jobs at a median income. Well, if that's your only yardstick, where is that going to occur? They're going to look at the largest population centers, and that is where they're going to focus their attention. And then if you look today, 2021 going forward, that is causing some of the greatest rifts. That is causing some of the greatest challenges with congestion, failure for transportation, and scarcity of housing. So that whole play on what we define as economic development, how we empower it, how we take areas like Logan, and I'm telling you, St. George, you guys have traffic, you have congestion problems in counties that, again, grew in spite of the odds against you, but there's ways of filling that in and filling in those gaps and really coming up with a smart play for this whole state. I'm telling you, it's why the stump speech never changed. No matter where we were in the state, no matter where we've gone, our message has always been the same. Go back to what ended up becoming the only big debate we ever had, that Silicon Slopes debate, January 31st. Nobody knew when we were on that stage. That was like our one shot. I'd have had a lot more to say if I knew that was my one last shot. But even then I was saying, you know what? This is not the Wasatch Front. This is the whole state. And this whole economic play has to be found within the whole state. I said it back then, and we've been saying it ever since.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that perspective. I think Victor brings a similar perspective. There's a lot of good things going on in Washington County and up here in Cache. We have a great research institution, a lot of outdoor opportunity. There's so much opportunity, but we do need a governor and a governor's office that understands all of that. Good luck. Good luck this weekend. Looking forward to a big win for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for
David.
all your help.
Thank you for your help. It's good to see you.
All right, we have one final question tonight. We're going to go to John Morris. John, are you there?
I am here.
All right, welcome.
Hey, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hey, John.
Okay, Greg. So a question for tonight, and this is good. I think this is going to be a good one to end on. One, I want to thank you for sticking by the caucus system and sticking by the whole path. You guys have a great plan for, what to do with the Wasatch Front and how to get us kind of out of there and you actually use the rest of the state. Just something that we kind of
that's a good way to say it.
Do it. Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, we want to get the federal government to stop having it. We need to have a plan to use it as well. So
that's a great.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
My question is, because you are our caucus guy and because you have always gone that way, there are 3 other candidates who are already in the race.
Yeah.
That are on the primary.
Yep.
And so my question is, how do you, and you don't have to go into specifics because I know you want to keep some things inside of the campaign sometimes. What do you have a plan on how to overcome them already being there? Have you already implemented it? And are you going to be able to match them, at least not directly, but close enough on funds, because some of them are coming from huge federal funds?
Yes. And so look, I'm superstitious. I can't get too far ahead because I know that because we went signatures. We didn't go any signatures. I got to earn your support, and I got to get the approval of delegates to move on to the.
Absolutely. And this is assuming that we do that.
Yeah. So
My question is kind of like,
yeah.
are you have
So,
something there?
I don't want anyone to think that I feel entitled or I'm expecting or I'm getting cocky, because I'm not. Believe me, I'm not getting cocky. I got to earn every single vote. So, but I'm going to tell you this: I've never been in a race to be a spoiler or to be an also ran. If I didn't know there was a path and a viable way to run, I got more things to do with my life and time that I would do those things. Our path is clear, and I think we've actually demonstrated what this path looks like. If you look at the original polling, if you go back a number of months, given the candidates that we have that are running, you saw the highest poll numbers coming from those who naturally had high name ID. A former governor who has universal name ID, a lieutenant governor with very high name ID, everyone else starting lower. Since that time, and you could look back to October or whatever month you want to use as a baseline, this campaign, we've gone up 11 points. Our trajectory in terms of our message, we've been on TV. I announced in January 8th, that I was running. We had over 45 town hall meetings in January, February, and the first part of March. And at the same time, we were doing television. We did media buys on TV, radio, and digital. And if you look at all the candidates from the top all the way down in terms of name ID and who people knew or did not know, no candidate and no team has had an 11-point rise in the polls as you see that we've had. And we know that's the case because we are the conservative ticket. We know that when we get into that June registered Republican primary, that's not a November election with other ballot measures on trying to pull Democrats for, free health care or whatever. This is a June registered Republican primary. We are the conservative ticket. And we do believe, with what we've seen by way of trajectory already, we have the message that resonates, and we do have the ability to raise funds and really continue that message once we get out and once we've earned the support of delegates. And by the way, I think that's a base. I think the delegate support is not only essential to get permission or to get that approval to get into the primary. We want to earn delegate support because that's a grassroots support statewide that we'll need, and we'll need to stay in touch, and we'll need to stay together to carry that forward. And again, I think that whole economic play of the whole state of Utah, when you look at Washington County, when you look outside the Wasatch Front, that's a base that we're going to work very hard to earn the support of. And in a plurality race, we think that the coalescing of the whole state for a unified economic plan is a winning plan.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Iverson?
I would just add to that. I think our message really resonates. I think off the Wasatch Front, Washington County has played some roles in some critical races when you see the 4 large counties along the Wasatch Front sometimes splitting their vote. And then Washington County has a tendency to go in. We're a very conservative voter base. And I expect we have 50,000 registered Republicans in my county. I'm not saying I'm entitled to their vote, but I am saying that there's a base that I believe will rally to our message, will rally to the idea that we're a Utah unifying ticket, and that we're the conservative ticket. The Republicans that vote in a June primary are our most conservative, freedom-minded, constitutional-minded citizens in this state. And I really do believe that this message of a bold conservatism, of leadership, a lot of people can wrap themselves in the flag and can say they're conservative, but can they lead? Can they solve problems? And I think in this ticket, and with Greg Hughes as the governor, you're going to see somebody who's not only battle tested and conservative, but also can solve problems. And, the current governor's and lieutenant governor, I'll just say this, I don't want to be negative, but I'm kind of taking.
Be honest, he's got a record. We can talk about it.
Well,
thank you.
The biggest record is that our economy is completely shut down. And we've proven that we can shut down an economy. We've proven that we can put people out of work. The thing that it's going to take now, it's going to take real leaders to put this economy back into order and really rally Utah, because we have wonderful challenges, but all of those challenges are kind of opportunities. We've talked a little bit about them tonight. Problems with how do we keep our young people here? Well, at least we have young people, because there's some states in this union that are just aging out of existing and shrinking. So
I don't know, the COVID might take care of that too.
Yeah.
Well, yes. But at any rate, I think it is our message, and I think it is one other thing I'll tell you, because I've been a grassroots guy. I've helped other candidates. In fact, it feels strange for me to be a candidate more than helping somebody. I told Greg I would be supporting him 100%. And then he asked me to join the ticket, and I realized what 100% meant. But at any rate, I believe that we're going to be able to rally our voters in a way that'll bring them out. It's the energy, it's the message, and we're going to outwork any other candidate. You know, you can go up, you can advertise. Ask Mike Bloomberg how it is. You know, you can pay for a lot of advertising, but if you're not out there meeting the folks, if you're not talking to people in their farms and in their stores and in their communities and really asking them and talking to them about freedom, talking to them about limited government, talking to them about effective and limited government, then you're really not going to have an appreciation, and people will give you your support if you go out and talk to them about the issues. So anyway, that was a very long, short answer. So.
Hey, you're going to get me in trouble. I think I just laughed at a COVID-19 joke. I think that's totally politically incorrect what I just did. You drew me in, man. I'm going to get in trouble now.
You know, I can always get you in there.
I got an opponent watching this video somewhere.
Tribune's already got an article about
I know.
It.
I think the liberal media is already. Hey, did you guys? Yeah, go ahead.
I said I'm on the same side of you, though. I need a little brutal honesty sometimes. The best
I
route.
know. Did you guys notice that when I asked Commissioner Iverson, to join the ticket, the next day the Tribune writes a hit piece about him, and somebody in the governor's office leaks his personal communications and texts with the governor's chief of staff, which was, hey, Rome is burning. Get this economy started back up again. It was written a month ago. They thought it was a hit. They thought it was bad. I couldn't have been more proud. I said, I picked the right guy. He's perfect.
Well, as a county commissioner, I've had a lot of people in Washington County saying, why are you not standing up for us? And I kind of say, well, I am. I'm trying to be measured and balanced. And so the article actually worked out really well for me. I was able to say, hey, look, I've been standing up for you for a while. So anyway.
Hey, listen, in our booth, we didn't get to do this tonight, but look, I want to show you a couple of things. If we were in
we have a question actually about the booth.
About the booth?
Yeah.
I wanted to show this picture at some point. Let's go.
No, we'll do that. The question's really simple. It was from Marie Nucci, like Gucci.
Yes.
All right,
Gucci?
I'm getting it. Marie Nucci. And she asked, if this were your real booth, what kind of treats or candy would you be passing out? What's your favorite? Let's hear it from both of you. What your favorite is that you'd pass out
for candy?
For your booth.
I'm totally, well, I don't know if it's healthy. Well, it's not healthy, but I don't know if it's even say. I love cookies. I would have had big fat chocolate chip cookies.
And
well, the candy
and Red Bull. Yeah. Can I say that on it? If anybody knows me, man, I'm a big Red Bull fan. I hate to say. I hope I don't lose votes on that.
The Andes mints always work good because, you know, people just seem to like them. So
you got to have water too, by the way.
Water,
you got to have water.
Mints, you know, cookies, I guess. Yeah.
I love the big fat cookies. I always like those. So, all right. So no, I don't care if you can't interrupt me. So here, can you zoom up on this?
Yeah.
So this is a picture, and this is a rough sketch, by the way. So when the media wants to try and shame you out of a position. So let's go back to 2015, Obamacare expansion. You got the governor, he's supportive, lieutenant governor, they're supportive of Obamacare expansion. And they tried to dress it up and call it Healthy Utah, but it's ACA, it's Obamacare expansion. So the House of Representatives, we got everybody in the world coming after us, yelling at us, calling us the worst things in the world. Well, there's a particular Tribune editorial cartoonist named Pat Bagley, and he thinks, I know how to make Hughes afraid. I know how to make Hughes really, want to change his mind, because I'm going to make everybody think that Hughes is a bad guy. So he makes me out to be a gangster. Okay. He puts me in a reverse pinstripe suit. He puts a Tommy gun in my hand. He got all these spent shells on the floor here. He's got a doctor here I've shot. Now the color version of this that actually came out in the paper, there's a pool of blood around him. Here's the governor looking on shocked that I would do this. And in the final version, you have the Senate president with the governor standing there and the bill sponsor, and it says he don't look healthy to me. Anyway, trying to make me look like a bad guy. Not only does this not persuade me to change my mind, not only does it, as they try to paint me out to be a gangster and as a bad guy, I take these pictures and I frame them. I asked Pat Bagley to, I buy them from him, and then I hang them in my office of my wall just to let everybody know this is a badge of honor. When they attack me, it's because we're making a difference. We're doing those hard things. And when the liberal media attacks, I frame it and I put it on my wall. So this is one of the things that I wanted to show. Here's another one. This one I kind of like too. This is the Americans for Prosperity. This is for me, I'm Speaker of the House. This is Courage Under Fire. You know, the Koch brothers, they put a lot of money into grassroots around the country. They recognize that the House of Representatives, and we fought Obamacare expansion in a state where when you usually, in states that had a governor and a Senate president and every special interest group under the sun pushing for and telling you had to pass it, and having the special interest groups that are for it putting white crosses in the lawn of the Capitol, accusing you of murder, usually people cave, but we didn't. We didn't cave. And so we were recognized by Americans for Prosperity for our courage under fire. And I think that's, these are things that if we had a booth and a virtual booth, I'm showing them to you, but I'm showing you that because I think that's what it takes in 2021 going forward with your governor. It has to be, we're going to have difficult decisions in front of us. We're going to have the liberal media attacking us. They're going to try and shame us out of even having a position. They don't even want to debate. You're going to have special interest groups threatening colleagues' elections and threatening to boot them from office. And if I know one thing as a speaker, I've watched fear can be contagious. You can see it spread. I can watch it spread across the floor of the House as some people start to worry about their decision. But I've also seen courage be contagious, and I've watched my colleagues and my leadership team as we've leaned into these issues. We see that courage grow, and we've been able to do those hard things. But they come at a price, and they come by being attacked. And so when we talk about issues, I want you to know that when we talk about the big things, the big transformational things we want to do, they do come with their fair share of critics and attack. But you get in this ticket with myself and Commissioner Iverson, we are undaunted and we don't buckle. And we have a record of public service to prove it. And if you're talking to a candidate who, when you ask them to get a little more specific, get a little closer than 30,000 feet above the ground, give you some specifics, when they do share those things, ask them what they do in those circumstances of the media attacking and the special interest groups and the Twitter storms and the fear that comes from staff and those that you work with. If they've never been through that, I don't know what they will tell you, because I don't think they know themselves what they would do. So I think that's part of the leadership, especially, and we were talking about this very early on in the campaign. I was, when I announced my candidacy, I wasn't going to, Steve Jobs said, if you want to make everybody happy, don't be a leader, sell ice cream. And from day one, I said, I'm not selling ice cream. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's okay to have uncomfortable conversations sometimes, but for Utah, the sky's the limit, but it's going to take some work. Well, now we find ourselves in this pandemic. We have some mighty challenges that we're staring at now. And I will tell you that selling ice cream, please everyone, make everybody happy type of person is not someone that is prepared and can lead in a time like we're in right now. So I want to thank you,
Mr. Hughes.
Oh, we got someone else. Who is it? Oh, hey.
Oh, yes, you do.
Oh, look
Mr.
at
Hughes,
this. This is my, okay. Yes, sir.
I have a dark. I'm in the dark. I'm actually driving to St. George, and been listening for a while. Lots of good comments. Lots of good listeners. Hey, to those people that I've heard some comments tonight, I've heard them a couple before. I think people are maybe somewhat worried when we get through these next couple of days and you become on the ballot. What is your game plan? How do you beat the money? How do you beat the aviator glasses, or how do you beat, whatever it may be that's out there? There's a movie you and I've talked about before called The Patriot.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson in that show, and you think about the early people in the Americas when the British were here, outnumbered, outflanked, outgunned. Talk about courage. When we talk about the things that have to come out, we as delegates who support you, and by the way, I voted for you today. There was no ranked choice. There was no ranked choice voting. There was one vote. When you rank choice vote, you hurt Greg Hughes. And there was no ranked choice. I got several polls that said, "Who's your first choice?" I said, "Number one, Greg Hughes." I get a text back, "Who's your next choice?" "Number one, Greg Hughes." Do you have a third? Do you have a third choice? "Number one, Greg Hughes." And I stuck to that today, and so did a few other of my friends. But I do want to say this. It will take courage as delegates when we get past this in a primary election to open our mouths and say, this is why I support Greg Hughes. Because the popular thing is going to be to vote the guy with who's the best orator, or who looks the best with, I jokingly said, the glasses, or whomever the candidate may be. It takes courage to go out and say, this is why I'm supporting him. Is he as well funded, or is he this, or is he that? He may not be. But I can tell you why I support him. It takes courage to stand up against Obamacare. Talk about the homelessness issue. That was a sexy winner. I mean, you talk about around the state of Utah, other than Salt Lake County, the homelessness issue was better when you were there. There are lots of different things, but it takes courage. And so I just want to say I commend both of you. It's going to be between 88 and 90 degrees in St. George. My wife and I's 27th wedding anniversary today, so we're going to go and we're going to go sweat. Yeah. We're going to go sweat a little bit by the pool. But continue, and to the delegates and to the folks who are still listening, I know this man personally. It is not being a bully to be brave. It is not caving under pressure. I heard a gentleman talk about our state changing and what that looks like, and are we becoming more purple? We become more purple when our leaders refuse to stand and be the people that they profess to be. And when we have leaders that will stand and be the people that we believe them to be, and who they've proven in their track history of being, that's when we will not be purple. We'll continue to lead. I'm a transplant here, Houston, Texas. I think of the two best states in the United States are Utah and Texas, both very conservative states, and both states do a lot of things well and a lot of things right. And I guess I'm blessed to have both bloods in me, from Utah and Texas. But I would just say thank you, Commissioner, for the things that you do in Washington County. With that, Mr. Speaker, you guys have a great night. I don't mean to be the last one to speak, but probably am. One last thing, you, I think, have had more town hall meetings than anyone else. I know that if you had the chance to go around this state and shake people's hands, and you would be there. If I only had one criticism with you, I think this is better because you get more people to see you. You would get hung up shaking and hugging and giving everybody a high five and understanding what's going on. You would miss people. But this man is very personable. He wants to know you. He wants to know your story. He wants to know, how is government helping you, or how is government screwing you? And if it's the latter, we got to fix it. And have a great day, guys. I appreciate you. Love you.
Love you, brother.
Let's keep working. And if you've not voted yet, and you know that Greg Hughes is someone you can support, I would encourage you just to vote for Greg Hughes and shut the thing down.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
My brother in arms. I love Francis. I love him. The man played for Lavelle Edwards, BYU Cougar, right there, defensive end. How would you like to be Speaker of the House? And you have in your leadership team a Coke machine with arms and legs. He is a man, and he's principled, and he's no nonsense. He doesn't suffer fools lightly. I got to tell you, the man is just, he leans into issues. He takes brave stances. I asked him he used to joke. I used to call him grenades. I'd give him the grenade, these hard issues like, we need to get this done, and there's the grenade. And he would work so hard. And I love serving with Representative Gibson. He's a incredibly strong leader today. And I love ending with my good friend, Francis Gibson, coming on the show. And I hope we record these. We can maybe splice them so people hear someone other than me. And maybe that'll work. But it is terrible.
We can't use this one though because of the COVID joke. So
I used that. Yeah, I got lured into a COVID-19 joke. I laughed about.
You can cut me out. Come on,
John ruined. Yeah. Thanks a lot, John. Yeah. No, I loved it actually. But yeah, that's nice. Look, I just, in hindsight, 45 town hall meetings that for January and February in the cold winter months were really packed. I mean, remember the one in Washington County or Washington City, the library there?
Oh yeah, yeah.
We had 140 people in there on a Friday night. And that was in January. I think it was January or February. But anyway, we had over 45 town hall meetings before we had to shut it all down. And I think that's what's really been fortunate for me. And you were part of those meetings as well, where you you feel the energy and you feel people's reactions. It's hard. Like I said, if I'm saying something and whatever I'm saying, someone's like, what? If they give you this look like, huh? Then you know that you're not really tracking. It's not really working. But if you can see it, so I miss that. And I miss you, the delegates. And so,
well, what some of our folks might not realize is we started at 1 o'clock today, or was it 12? Anyway, at 1 o'clock, we started calling delegates and just inviting them in, and we were doing smaller groups. And you've been talking and discussing issues this whole time, and I'll fill in every once in a while.
You
it's
are,
just
man.
been great,
you're
man.
an Iron Man. You've been doing this. Guy's birthday was yesterday. We're Neanderthals here. We didn't have any cake. We didn't celebrate it. We just kept working. We didn't even do anything fun.
Well, I do have to tell everybody that I was having a little back and forth with one of my mayors down there who is advocating that we close down a little bit more. At least it was my opinion that was what he was advocating. And so I said, all I want for my birthday, because he wished me a happy birthday, was for our economy to get back up and going. So
yeah,
you know, it's
well, I'll tell you this. We're going to close it down tonight. I'll tell you from those meetings, I just want to tell you the one stat that I didn't share that I think over 400 volunteers signed up in those meetings that we had. I mean, it was really inspiring to see the signs leaving the libraries and people sign up. Over 400 volunteers. We didn't know it at the time. We were inviting likely registered Republican primary voters. Fortunately, many of you that are delegates have reported they were at some of those meetings. So we did get to have that one-on-one time. But it's a 3-day voting cycle. It's hard. It's kind of weird to know that's going on. But if you're undecided, come back. I'm not going to stop until the final bell. I'm going to keep going. We're going to keep going. So, but we need to earn your support. We knew it all along. We're the only campaign and ticket that knew that and accepted it. And we're laying our fate at your feet. So please, we want to earn your support. And if you know anyone that's not had the chance to ask us questions and they're still weighing candidates, because it is a deep field, please ask them to reach out to us. We'd love to talk with them and earn their support as well. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
And thanks for joining us.